Hi, everyone. Welcome to a very special report of Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Usually, this is a one-on-one segment, but this time we have two distinguished guests from the largest, biggest day in the cannabis industry every year is MJBiz Con in Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure it's still the biggest convention in the cannabis industry every year. And Emilie Lewis is with us, and I think she's still the Senior VP of Strategy for MJBiz Con. Am I accurate with that, Emilie?
Yes. Senior Vice President and brand leader. Yep.
There you go. And you've brought along your partnership guy, right? This is Harrison Radie, right? Harrison,
Harris, Harrison's my number one. He's not just my partnership guy. He's my number one. He's who you should know at MJ Biz for sure.
well, it's an honor for you to introduce me to him. Now, Harrison, you get to talk and tell us, what do you do there?
I am Emily's partner. We spend about 12 hours a day together on camera, just like this. I am the vice president of sales and partnerships, looking over mostly the trade show floor. I come from a decade of music industry. It's all about culture, all about bringing the tribes together, and that's what we're looking to do at MJBizCon.
Fantastic. And as Emilie has taught me so well, you have to have a game plan before you get off the plane in Las Vegas to take part in that event, because otherwise it's going to swallow you up with the overwhelming expanse of this convention. And that was probably the best advice she ever gave me. This year you've got something new, and I'm going to let Emilie talk a little bit about. You've created a grow competition, and by the way,
Yeah.
it's a coast to coast grow competition, which sounds very similar to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm not quite sure where you got the idea, and I'm sure you came up with it on your own, but still,
Yeah.
I think I salute you for that, because every one of these trade shows now is looking for something different, and they all have these cup competitions, and congrats on that. How
Yeah.
excited are you guys?
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. So what you're referring to is the MJ Bowl. We officially launched the MJ Bowl 2 weeks ago. We launched it with, I couldn't think of better partners. Our partners in this are the Buddhist group. If
Mhm.
you haven't heard of Buddhist, everyone in cannabis should go download this app immediately. So the way I describe it is it's a much better version of a Yelp for cannabis. And I say better version because I think they've done a great job on their branding and their interface. It's very easy to use. But essentially, what you can do is you download this app, and as a consumer, you go to a dispensary and you get to rate and review the product. So it really is one of the first consumer facing interfaces to really learn about our consumer, which Jocelyn Sheltraw, who is the co-founder and CEO of Buddhist, she comes from years in the industry. She was the first employee at Headset and just a fantastic human being. And she and I see eye to eye and have been cooking up this idea for over a year and a half now. But we really see eye to eye on the concentration of consumers in this industry and where our industry really needs to go in terms of listening to our consumers. So they were the perfect partner for this. So to give you guys a little bit more insight about MJ Bowl, we launched 2 weeks ago. We are in the quote unquote submissions phase. So right now, brands can submit their products. We have 5 different categories with a few subcategories underneath them that we will be judging. The submissions will be going through October 3rd. And we're honoring both New York, the state of New York, and California. So we decided to start with two of the big giants in our industry. Obviously, we know the history around California, but New York is coming for that title pretty quickly.
And
So,
please, hang on a second. I get to interject as a native of Massachusetts. Just remember that my state was the first East Coast state to vote in adult use. Okay, just
well,
New York can
I
have all the
love that.
attention. They get all the media. They get all the money. They get all the people. They can have all that. But just remember who was first, because
Well,
if you know
you're
your
going to be
history,
Just
interested to
just the
know.
start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to be interested to know, Jimmy, that next year our goal with this, and we didn't come out saying we are a national competition for no reason. Our goal with this next year is to add more states. Our goal is to grow because that is our goal at the end of the day is to recognize all of our states. We
that's
have to crawl before we walk, of course.
mhm.
So we did pick the two giants, but I think Massachusetts will be coming soon. So don't worry.
I'm not worried. Just remember in history, it all began in my state. I just want to say, and it began with a party. If you guys know your history about the Boston Tea Party, it was
Yeah.
250 years ago. I'm just saying, Harrison, you get
Yeah.
to talk now. Because
Maybe we have one of the awards named after you, Jimmy. I think that'd be a good idea.
well, I appreciate that. Let's just hope it's not a
The Jimmy
memorial
Young.
award. Okay, is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, Jimmy. No way. No way.
Harrison, as a business development guy, I don't like to use the word sales because everybody thinks, oh, you're a salesman. No, you're business development. You actually have a brain and you have a strategy in your brain when you go out and you look for sponsors and support. So, with all the doom and gloom that's been buzzing around this industry, are you able, how's it been trying to get sponsorships, to get people involved this year? Because every year is a challenge, isn't it?
Here's a challenge. We've had to get creative. I think the whole industry has had to be creative, especially the last couple of years. So one of the main strategies we've taken on is, as Emilie said, partnerships. So we've launched in the last 2 years some really great pavilions at the show. This year we're bringing back the vault, which is seeds. We're adding clones to that. We're having partnerships with Jack Herrera and Mita are combining. So if you don't know Mita is the largest cannabis association, and they help brands meet manufacturers and expand state to state.
Yep.
So they're teaming up with Jack Herrera. We're going to have a brand pavilion. We're bringing in, and Emilie can talk a little bit more about this too, but an indigenous pavilion this year. They're looking to grow big. We're celebrating the Native Americans. It's going to be fantastic, bringing in their companies and brands. And then we're also working with ICBC. So another fabulous partner is Alex Rogers. They're bringing in a pavilion to our show, bringing in some influential speakers, and it's going to be off the chain. Just some really cool new partnerships and exciting areas of the event this year.
And
And for
best of all,
those, really quick, Jimmy, for those, because I'm sure you know them, but for those that don't know ICBC, that is all about the international market. So ICBC is an event that happens in Berlin, and they also have a private networking group called the Talman Group. And so, again, putting an emphasis on what's happening outside of the US as well, because it's really exciting overseas right now. They're in a bit of the what we would call, maybe like 7 years ago, what we would call the green rush. They're in their own green rush. And so, really bringing them in to talk about the innovation and how they're setting up their cannabis program, which is very different than the US. And I think there's some things we can learn from them. So
absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why I have an international set of correspondents, and we're spinning out our international division with our
nice.
own little news show.
Right.
I'm hoping it may actually be this weekend, but I'm not putting myself out there. But I will say by the end of September, certainly we will have an international set of news stories. And of course, everything I do is what I call MIC news. Which are very short reports from different areas, so you can get as much in as possible. And that's
Yeah.
the methods to my madness and our news show and what have you. I do want you mentioned the green rush, and I'm really hoping that the green wall does not emerge in Europe like it has here in the United States, because
True. Yeah.
and you both know. I mean, it's been scary with all the debt coming due in 2026 and some of
Yeah.
the MSOs going into receivership. I mean, at some point, somebody in our government has got to understand that, we probably need to work with this industry rather than ban them and block them.
Hopefully
Well,
sooner than later.
yes, 100%. I was going to say, one thing that gives me hope is the way that the European and international markets, and I say European because I'm really, looking at what Germany is doing, has done, France, what they're about to do. And obviously there's Latin American countries that are, doing some things well, but so when I say European, it's not to exclude other countries, but what the international market has done really well is from the beginning, government and pharma and the medical side are all involved. So you can't even start without doing years of testing and lab work and consumer facing interactions. So I think it's different. I think how they're doing it is very smart. Now, of course, we're the US, we're built on a, capitalist nation over here, and we want to go, we don't I mean, let's call a spade spade. We do medical just to get to rec. Like that is how we have set up the cannabis industry is like everyone's like, great, we went medical. Now when is rec going to happen? When is rec coming?
Yeah.
So it's very different over there.
Yeah, but it's still human beings involved with this whole thing. Okay. Human
Yes, yes,
behavior, it being what
yes.
it is, it's a big pie, guys, and everybody wants a piece of the pie and the biggest piece they can get. And look, I've had a medical card since it started in Massachusetts in 2013. Okay. I've
Mhm.
had, we don't have to go into my body again. Okay, we're not talking about that. All right. Right.
That could take the whole session.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
could. Yes, it could. Yes, it could. Dennis. Absolutely. And I would still need a 90-minute massage after that. All right. So, that being said, how do you counter? You use the word recreational, and it's something I have a little bit of a beef with because I still maintain
We've talked about this
that's
before.
right. 90% of the people that go to adult use stores are using cannabis for medicinal purposes, but don't want to go through the old, oh, let me get my card and spend a little bit more without realizing that you're going to make it back because, there's no tax on medical patients here in Massachusetts anyway. And of course,
Yeah.
every state has different rules and regulations, but I don't use Robitussin recreationally. And,
Yeah.
and Robitussin gets you high. Okay.
There might be some people that do though.
By the way, and that's why it's an adult 21 product where you can't
Yep.
get out of CVS, Walgreens, or Rite Aid
Yep.
without showing your ID. And
Yep.
and yet explaining this to our lawmakers, right over the head.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
And
You
Yeah.
know, and that brings up another, sorry to bring back another partnership, but Gangier, we have a great partnership with them as well. And I think what you said is very important. People are going in to dispensaries and using it for medical.
yeah,
We're setting up a program with Gangier where the bud tenders are educated and my mother-in-law can go into a dispensary and she is getting what she needs and not just the most, strong that think
Yeah.
something's going to put her out.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
right
Well,
product.
Go
and
ahead.
that's the difference, Jimmy, is I think, and again, I know we've had that conversation about adult use versus rec,
Right.
but here, that's the difference in I think the international market is that there's so much science behind it, there's so much consumer data behind it, and you have government and what their pharma, system is on board from the beginning. So they recognize the plant as medicine. And it's not to say that we don't recognize the plant as medicine. But I always bring this conversation up. The California State Fair that happens every year, where cannabis, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where cannabis was allowed into the California State Fair.
Yep.
I have heard from numerous dispensary owners that we work with how that weekend, 2 weekends that they have, kept their doors open. And why? Because we all know the war on drugs happened. We all know the stigma with a certain age group. And they said, look, I found a completely new clientele of 60 and above that would never come into a dispensary because they're so stigmatized
Right.
by what they were told a dispensary was. But because they're at the state fair, because they want to know what the best cheese is and the vegetables that are, out there, and they want to go to their farmers market and they want to, it's history for them that they're part of this.
Yeah.
They got to actually speak to a customer and educate them and talk to them. And then that person became a customer and actually came into the dispensary. But they met them at the state fair where they're comfortable first. And so things like that give me hope for, for this industry. And, there's certain people in the industry that are doing really amazing things. I always bring up Emilie Fisher with Leafwell and what she's doing, and she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, but we need more of that in the US. We need more of those conversations.
Correct. And Lord knows that's one of the reasons why I keep doing what I'm doing, because I believe in providing this service of educational talk about the plant as opposed to the vilification of the plant and waiting for the industry to stub their toe. So my former friends in newsrooms and commercial media around the country have something to lead their news with, because 100% of humans have opinions about this plant. Some are more educated than others, but everybody has an opinion. Okay. And as an old talk show host, I totally love that fact because you have an opportunity to hear both sides and go back and forth and learn from both sides. And I think the most important lesson is for anybody who's just looking at this and is afraid, just start low and go slow, because One
Yeah.
thing our lawmakers do recognize is, oh, this stuff is more powerful than the stuff back in the 60s and 70s. Well, as someone who remembers the 60s and 70s, okay, they're absolutely right. It is more powerful. But back then, we used to measure, not sativa indica, we didn't even know what that was, for crying out loud. Was it one hit weed, two hit weed, or three hit weed? And if you get to three hits and you don't feel it, don't take the fourth hit. Okay, it's very similar. That and these days, it's like X% THC. I'm just going to buy the highest THC and I have no idea what the terpene profile is. So
Yeah.
again, education is key in this industry. Emily, you know this about me. I love teaching.
Yep.
So I'm certainly in a place where I like to do that. Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned something that struck a nerve, and I definitely want to bring this up with you guys because I know you'll both have opinions about this. We have an issue in this country that we're losing the way as an industry. They don't realize that we're all in it together anymore. They're pointing
Mm,
fingers. They're
mm,
pointing fingers at each other. They're pointing fingers at the MSOs, and they're the villains. And what the people that are pointing the fingers don't realize the amount of money that those MSOs have given to Washington, D.C. politicians and lobbyists to move the needle as far as it's gotten to be moved further than any time in our history. Okay, we've never been this close to rescheduling, legalization, decriminalizing. I heard two presidential candidates mention the word marijuana. I can't wait for them to actually, well, actually, Kamala said cannabis. But anyway, point is, everybody has an opinion. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. How can we get the industry to come together and show more respect for everybody? Because guess what? In the first 5, 6, 7 years, most people have lost more money than they've made. So it's not about the pie anymore. It's about being able to keep it ripe and edible so that we can enjoy it because eventually it's going to happen. We're going to see normalization. We're going to see legalization. It's going to take time. But how do we get away from the craft growers pointing the fingers at the MSOs and that sort of thing? And I bet the woman from the Bud still have an opinion about this too. Was it Jocelyn?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jocelyn's fantastic. If you haven't had her on, you absolutely
Well,
should
I have
have
an
her.
idea for a show for her that she's going to flip out on, but one step at
Yeah.
a time here. Emily keeps introducing me to key people. So Harrison, you're next, okay?
I got a lineup. I got a Rolodex for you.
So how do we get the industry to come together and really respect let the plant bring us all back together again? Isn't that what it's here for?
Yeah, I mean it should be. Well, where I'll start is the precipice of the problem, and it's you put a wolf pack together and you starve them for long enough, they
Right,
turn on each other.
right,
And that is what has happened in our industry. Our industry, taxes keep going up, regulation still fails to pass, business gets tougher and tougher every year. So you have an entire group that is starved.
right,
And with business and regulations and laws and taxes and everything getting tougher and tougher, it's natural. It's the law of nature that the industry does turn on each other. So I don't want to villainize the industry, but we do have a problem,
right,
100%. And I think one of the things that MJ Biz is trying to do is bring people together, maybe that we wouldn't have even considered working with or partnering with, because maybe, people would have said, hey, you guys are actually competitors. You guys actually do the same thing. But, we actually could work together to connect the dots to make both of our businesses better and to create more ways for the industry to learn and grow and get what they need to help their business. So I think we have to lead by example. I don't think that telling someone not to villainize the other person, I can go, yell at someone in the hemp side all day long or yell at someone on the cannabis side and say, you guys shouldn't be doing that.
That's
You
right.
have to show.
Yep.
Words are only words. So that's one thing that Harrison and I are really adamant about, and the whole of the MJ Biz team is that we have to pave the way. We have to show by example. And I think, again, you'll see some of that in the way that MJ Biz is evolving and the partners that we're bringing in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I come from the association world. Um, we are serving the industry, and that's how Emily and I look at this. We are serving. That's our job every day, is bringing it together. So MJ Biz, it should be a celebration. It should be where everyone can get together, and we're ready for any front that comes, any decision that's made. to prepare for that. And whether it's through education, but mainly, the networking and growing partnerships in all factors.
Absolutely. And the word collaboration, guys, is the magic
Collaboration.
word to survive because our government has made it very difficult to survive. They are trying everything they possibly can to make it as difficult as possible for the industry to survive. And those who have survived to this point can't point fingers. And that includes the hemp community, okay?
Yep.
Because it's the same plant. Okay, this is what
Exactly.
it's like. It's the same plant. The government did not know that they were actually legalizing cannabis sativa when they defined what hemp was, right? In the
Yep.
2018 Farm Bill. They had no idea.
Yep.
Yep.
And I still maintain that they knew exactly what they were doing because nothing makes it more difficult when you create a counter-billion-dollar industry that's underregulated with an over-regulated industry. So now they've built the jealousy and the finger pointing, and it's made it even more difficult for both sides to survive because you still have lawmakers looking to ban hemp. And that
Yep.
makes no sense. This is no longer just a plant, it's a cannabinoid issue. That's really
Yeah.
where we're at. And
Yeah.
Aaron Smith, the outgoing executive director of the NCIA, is the one who shared that with me. And I said, oh my
Mhm.
God, that makes total sense because they're
Yep.
still obsessed with THC percentages and all this. And it's like, guys, you need to talk to growers and scientists to really understand what makes this plant work and interact with the human endocannabinoid system. And
Yeah.
until you have that basic understanding, you can't understand the industry. It doesn't make sense to make rules when you don't understand how it works.
Well, and imagine what we could do if we all united together within the industry. And that's the future that I see that I feel like people are missing. It's very short-sighted to fight within ourselves and the long-term vision. If we band together and I mean, we could wake up this government and really move regulation forward. But because there are so many different factions and again, and I get why that happens because business is tough, but it's very short-sighted, not to unite together. But it's a tough road ahead. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not unique too, and this is what sometimes we're all guilty of this in the industry because it isn't an easy industry, and we're all guilty of the woe is me story, and we get on Zooms and we vent, but we're not unique. Let's look at prohibition. I mean, we're not a unique industry in terms of changing laws. And that's really what we have to do, and we'll get there. I'm certain we'll get there. We have some of the smartest, most amazing humans in this industry that haven't given up. But yeah, I mean, I think if we could band together, the world would be our oyster. But
That's nice. We can dream about it. We can make
yeah,
it.
exactly, exactly. It's a little bit of a Pollyanna view, and I know
Right.
that's not the reality, but we can hope.
But it's a goal for all of us to
Yeah.
embrace rather than fight. And that is something I give you guys a lot of credit for continuing to do and wave this kind of flag because I really think that's the only way it's going to survive. And anybody who's made it this far, congratulations, because it's probably not going to get any easier, but you're still here. And that's something to be commended about. So, and you guys continue to be the kings of the hill. Look, one thing we haven't done, how many days away are we? Give us the dates. I love the fact that the competition is open. Go. Which one of you wants to be the cheerleader here? Harrison, why don't you give us what are the dates and what can we look forward to?
Sure. December 2nd through the 5th. One thing we haven't brought up as well is we haven't had a consumption element at our show. So I want to make sure the world knows about what we're doing with NuWu. So we've bought out NuWu every night of the event,
Mhm.
and you're able to leave the trade show floor, continue the conversations you have at MJBizCon, and
Yep.
move it to NuWu where we bought out, and we're going to have celebration. We're going to have media day. We're going to have celebrate seeds there. Just something every night to bring the industry together in a place where MJBiz is supporting and a direction to make those connections and keep those conversations going.
Fantastic. So you don't have to leave the site for the parties, is pretty much what you're saying,
We're
right? Because
given a direction.
yeah.
Weed Week has a lot going on. Now everyone has a direction to continue.
And
And
for those that aren't familiar with NuWu, it is a fantastic dispensary, consumption lounge, and event space. The space is gorgeous. It's on 5 acres of land. From their outdoor space, you can see the strip. Just fantastic, partners to work with, and it's also tribal land. So, it's fantastic partnership.
And just for the record, Tina Tasaka, our Nevada correspondent, covers the indigenous people, tribal lands,
Yeah.
deep, if you will. And I knew about NuWu a while ago. So when I saw it in your news release, I think it was today I saw it. And sure enough, I was like, oh, look at that. They're bounding. Now, quick aside here, I've been to Dazed. It was my first social consumption lounge experience last year at your event. And
Hmm.
I met somebody there, and that person tried to dab me under the table, guys. Didn't work, just for the record, okay? It didn't work at all because I ended up, yes, and I was still there, and I ended up sitting next to somebody I had just met, and we had a million people in common, and we did an interview. So anyway, bottom line is I survived my first consumption experience in Las Vegas, okay? And I look forward to another one at NuWu, which I think is a great idea for you guys, and I think it's going to be a big hit. And I have a feeling that my friend Mary Jane Oatman is involved in some capacity with our tribal friends, if you will, because
Yes.
she does such a great job. And, that's the other thing, guys. It's a small industry. I mean, it really is. I heard somebody once say, oh, there's only 2,500 businesses in cannabis if you count each multi-state operator as one. So,
Mhm.
and that's not a and it's billions. And the whole
Yeah.
idea is to take the hemp money that's also billions and bring it over because it's the same plant. Everybody needs to get along.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're all about. Well, fantastic, guys. Go to the MJBizCon website. I know it's up and running because I just spent some time there. And I went through all your speakers and I go, hey, that's another one of my correspondents. Hey, they're speaking to, oh, that's great. So I had a
Small industry and
lot of
small.
fun.
Yep.
Checked out some great people and best of luck in the future. And you guys both know that you always have a place to go to talk with me on our Cannabis Coast to Coast news. Fair enough?
No, Jimmy, this industry's so lucky to have you.
Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. And I'm lucky to have people like you who support it because that is the most important thing. It's collaboration and everybody needs to get along. Trust me, the pie is going to be big enough. We just have
That
to
part.
educate the people that we haven't been able to reach because of all those marketing regulations. They don't want you to push cannabis. You have to
That part.
educate it. You have to educate it. All right.
Yeah.
So for Emilie Lewis and Harrison Radie, I'm Jimmy Young. Thanks again for this special report on Cannabis Coast to Coast News.